Hi everyone, this is the TheSeenagerSeeks. I am a senior teenager, a millennial in spirit with the benefit of hindsight. And I'm here today to tell you about a new series that I'm starting with Wisdom Curators, and we are calling this series A Teenager Who is Seeking Answers. So let's begin. What do I have for you today? I have for you today the reason why I'm starting the series and why I call myself a teenager. Now you see there on the screen, and you see my profile slide, which has some very telling phrases, some very telling words. There is mental health, there is synergy, there is baby boomers, there is an intergenerational synergy. You will see the word millennials there, and you will see several other words that are resounding around us today. We hear them, they are part of our consciousness now, our subconscious, very much in fact a conscious, because it is affecting the way we live and the way we communicate, the way in fact the species is living and is going to survive. Now, the question to ask is, why Gen Ys? You see there on Wisdom Curators written Gen Ys, get Gen Ys. Well, let me ask you a question. Remember when you were young and it was very, very common, it was the done thing, it was expected that a child will be at their best behavior in front of their parents. Is that so? Is that so? Yes, it is. But imagine the difference today. Do you know what the definition of a mighty parent, a good parent is today? You are a good parent, not necessarily if your child is at their best in front of you. You, in fact, are a good parent if your child can be at their worst in your presence. Think about it. Think about it, because it covers everything. It covers every disappointment, every heartache, every heartburn, every moment of fatigue, every moment of soul-searching time that you spend at home, in office, in public spaces. This defines all the disconnect and the conflict that we are seeing around us. And if there is anybody out there who's telling me or who's thinking, oh, we've always seen generation gap, my answer to that is the stakes have never been higher. The stakes have never been higher. Two generations have never been divided by a cultural gap, a language gap, a social gap, a political gap. It's very, very, very fundamental. Today, 2021, we are at a generationally defining moment, and I am so convinced. I'm so convinced that generational is the only context today. And why do I say that? All our political movements, all our social progress, all our defining achievements, all the scientific advancement, all the technological disruption, the entrepreneurship, it is going to come to a big knot, a big knot, a big knot, a big zero if the generations are not at harmony and at peace with each other. I know for a fact that the next generation is experiencing huge amounts of guilt and undefined guilt and unexplained, inexplicable stress. They're carrying a burden, a load that they're not able to show us, that we are not able to appreciate, see, understand, and empathize with. This is why we need to be Gen wise. There has never been a moment that needed us to be as Gen wise as today. Now, you should ask me, what is the reason? What is the reason for all of this? Well, look around you. There are some social constructs which have transformed the way we live. There has been a complete collapse of authority. There is a push for transparency all around us. Our children demand us to be transparent. We demand the government to be transparent. The bosses and the employees, the managers and the millennials, they all expect transparency from each other. We demand transparency from the press, from the political process, from the airlines, from everybody. It's something that we demand today. The diversity, unheard of. India, we used to celebrate our diversity, but very soon, United States is going to be an equally diverse nation, a multicolored. In fact, it may happen that the white will go out of fashion, out of the majority, because there's so many multicolored skins there now. Another concept, another social construct that we all are talking about very forcefully is the construct of inclusivity. Include the disenfranchised segments of society, women, the poorer people, the lesser educated, the hitherto castes that have been considered or kept out of the areas of privilege. Next comes what I've coined a term and I'm calling it Watermark Patriarchy, because it used to be a thick stamp, and all that is left, or rapidly what it's looking like today, is a watermark, because there's such a push by the next generation of women against patriarchy. There's patriarchy, out patriarchy, done with, no more patriarchy. Patriarchy used to belong in the agrarian economy, and we are living in an industrialized, post-industrialized Web 6, Web 7 era today. So patriarchy out of the door. That's another reason. One more reason for the disconnect is this belief, dearly held belief with a lot of young people, that their personal is political. You remember the time when there was the personal and there was the official. You did not mix, for instance, business with pleasure. So we were one thing inside and we had a very convenient mask outside. That, my dear friends, is no longer the case with many young people today who consider themselves authentic. They are who they are, inside and out. The mask is off. Gender equity. There's never been greater gender confusion. So there is gender equality, there is gender equity. What is the difference between the two? That is a discussion for another session. TheSeenagerSeeks. But enough for the moment to say that there is mountains and mountains of gender confusion out there. Who is pink? Who is blue? Who is multicolored? Who is a rainbow colored? All kinds of identities jostling for space, jostling for acknowledgement. And of course, there are the human rights, the social construct of human rights. Human rights are important anywhere in the world. if there's a violation of human rights, and it's happening all the time, well, as violent as the violation, as violent are the protests against that violation. We are seeing it around us, and one proof is the existence of social justice juvenile warriors like Disha Ravi or like Greta Thunberg. More and more of young people, teenagers barely out of school, they are giving up on the government, they're giving up on my generation, they're giving up on us. They don't have the patience to wait for our answers. They are just taking things in their hands. They are using the tools that they have at their disposal, and they're going to continue to do so because there is a lot around them that is causing them anxiety, severe anxiety, and we'll come to that. So this is another reason for the necessity of being extremely generational aware, which means knowing how to conduct yourself, knowing how to communicate with the next generation, knowing how to exist in harmony. Now, what are these generations like, these two generations that we are talking about? Look at them. Look at me. There I am sitting, this teenager, boomers, born between, well, approximately plus and minus 5 years here and there. Now, boomers are very prescriptive. They have clear ideas of what is right and what is wrong. There isn't much gray area for them. Gray is a color they're not very comfortable with. They are prescriptive. They are proscriptive. They cause microaggressions. You remember the time when you went home for your holidays and an aunt would look you up and down and she'd say, "Oh, you've put on a lot of weight around your butt. Oh my God, you got a gray hair there. How did this happen? Goodness, look at your ankles. Your ankles are so thick." You try passing any commentary on a young person's appearance today. Who is brave enough to do that today? It is not taken well. It is not appreciated. It is not politically correct. It is a human rights violation to poke any opinion or any call attention to anything about another person's appearance. Whether fat, thin, my generation still does it. Perhaps slightly younger generation cohort also does it. But the younger, more aware, more progressive young people do not appreciate it anymore. So these people you're seeing on the screen, and I'm one of them, they also are past masters at micromanaging. Have you been in a room with somebody my age? You enter the room and they'll be looking at you and thinking, "Oh, why don't you pick up this glass? Would you like some water? Or if you're going down, can you carry this with you? Oh, you're sitting here, let me get you a pillow. Oh, you're leaving home, have you eaten? What time are you going to be back? I'm worried about your throat, you're coughing a little. Let me get you some kara." A lot of this is caring, agreed, but it is very invasive caring in the opinion of the next generation. It is not appreciated. They want their space. They want their space to breathe. Stop anticipating their actions. And we do that completely unconsciously. We're not doing it with any intention to hurt. It just comes so naturally to us because that's what we've grown up seeing our parents do. Bete, swatter pehna, and all the time, khana khaya. Most of us overeat, but that eternal question that symbolizes sublime love for your child. Khana khaya, kya khaya? Aur bhook lagi hai. So here is a generation that identifies also so deeply with the next generation, with the children, almost what is called enmeshed today. Now see the difference. In our days, it used to be called natural bonding, or it was expected. Generations almost worked like one unit, like we worked on the farms. That's not the case anymore. The younger generation is wanting to individuate. And they're asking, does our culture, in particular, the Indian culture, even know how to individuate? And what happens because of this? Of course, there is stress and tension at home. And you'll hear young people saying, oh, I have problems with my parents. I don't understand what they want. I want to flee my home. I want to go away into the hills. I want to numb my pain. I want to be with myself. I want to keep my door shut. We are seeing that around us. So there's one more reason to seek answers with the teenager and become Gen wise. Now, these were the boomers. Let's take a look at the zoomers. Here they are. I just told you these zoomers want to be real. Don't talk bullshit to them, please. Please spare us. It's called violent communication. It's called passive aggressive behavior. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this gray-haired teenager is talking about urban educated young people, not the regular kids, not the ones who are acha bachas, biba bachas, who live in smaller towns, smaller cities. Well, let me tell you, that's not entirely true, because the hyperconnectivity has made the entire world, the entire globe, let alone India, a flat world. We are more or less existing in the same space. The only difference is that the means of expression may be different. That's all. Inherently, it's the same desire to gain independence, to break free, the same belief that you have only this one life, that you need to create an impact. It's not just about earning a living anymore for this generation. They want to create a life for themselves. Remember that they don't want a living. What they want is a life. And they're also telling us, get yourselves a life. Get yourselves a life. Come on, live. And they'll tell us that you lived a very, very safe life and there was a lot of compromising. But with us, our risk-taking ability is higher. And why that's so, and what role my generation has to play there, that's again another question. We'll figure that out in another of these sessions of the TheSeenagerSeeks. Today, my purpose is only to explain the reason behind, the very, very compelling reason behind doing this whole entire exercise with wisdom curators. Now, bi-generational empathy, we've established that there is enough and more reason out there for the disconnect between generations. So how do you cover that? Empathy. You'll have to empathize. And empathize doesn't mean just nodding your head, ha 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 ha, beta, yeah, I understand. And ji nahi. I told you their bullshit meter is high. They recognize fraudulent communication. They recognize passive aggressive behavior. They recognize when we are humoring them. They're quite smart that way. Empathy means actually seeking the reasons, the challenges, the roadblocks, the worries, the fears, the harshness in the environment that the young are struggling with. And again, I know you are there. I know you're there, some of you, saying they have everything. They have supportive parents, they have the best of education, they have pocket money, they have cell phones, their parents are not as strict as our parents were. We don't ask them very often to do chores at home, only so that they can devote time to studying, to learning something new, to upskilling. What reason, what possible reason could they have for this angst? Well, the reason is, a huge part of it is ambition, and not necessarily an ambition which is percolating down to them from their parents, not necessarily all the time. It's the environment, the in the face interaction, watching each other, the whole ether. The whole ether is reverberating with stories of successful people, and 6-year-old, 8-year-old YouTuber, or an 11-year-old best-selling author, a 14-year-old entrepreneur, a multi-millionaire unicorn creator who's done it at just age 21, 22. The safety of that road map that we had, that you do your high school by 15, you enter college, come out at 21, get married at 20, 23, at 25, 26, you're a mother. Like it or not, and boring though it may sound, it gave us a sense of accomplishment. It gave us a sense of safety. It gave us a sense of well-being. You were meeting your milestones, and in that there was a certain degree of comfort, because you had the support of the family, you had the support of the society, who was clapping and cheering you on and saying, well done, beautiful, keep it up. That's not the case now. The young generation is being the other, if you can try and imagine that. And there is stress in being the other. There is stress in doing something which your parents are not completely comfortable with, or they're not completely able to understand, and therefore they're not cheering you on. So if your child has done 4 or 5 years of engineering college, and then he's turning around to you and saying that I want to open a food stall called Bhukkar, what is your reaction going to be? Are you going to say, Shabash bache, baba, chalte chalo, badhte chalo, naam roshan kar diya? You try and keep your mouth from opening. You try and keep some offensive words, some fear pouring out of your mouth. You're on eggshells, and that reaches them. You understand that this generation is trying to do some things which are extremely different. So they are being the other. They're going against huge amounts of not traditional inertia, but inertia of tradition. They're going further out than the earlier generations have ever gone before. And this book that you see on my screen, Stoned, Shamed, Depressed, pick a copy and read it. It will give you an idea of what is really going on with young people. And by young people, I mean really, really young people. School children. Stoned, shamed, and depressed. Need I say anything more? And why are they stoned, shamed, and depressed? Well, those are the answers. Those are the questions to which we have to together seek answers. My dear friends, the fairy tale is dead. The fairy tale of vibrant, happy, carefree, dreamy, potent, that fairy tale, potent youth, that fairy tale is dead. It really is dead. It's not the same to be young today as it was in our days, the earlier generation. To be young today means something very, very different. There are a lot of age inappropriate, let's say, well, that's the only way I can put it, age inappropriate experiences, age inappropriate consumption, experiences that the young are going through today, which literally leaves them, for want of a better word, jaded. Not a nice word to use, and the idea is not to ring any alarm bells, but I'm sure many of you out there understand what I'm saying. So the fairy tale is dead. This is an article, look it up. Because of all this that I have seen in the last decade or so, as a teacher, as a journalist, as a TV production person, as a writer, as a speaker, what I started to do was put together programs for the really vulnerable age group. And that vulnerable age group is actually the teenagers. And the teen tweens, the teens get younger and younger. The adolescence is starting earlier and extending way beyond 18. So 25 is the new 18 today, as we say. So I put together a program, and this program is called Staying Relevant as Parents in Times of Social Media. Here I specifically mention social media because that is where the teens are living. That is where they are evolving their identities. That is where they are understanding the meaning of life, and that is where they are forming some deeply held beliefs that the older generation is perhaps not even aware of. Social media, digital highways is where the young generation, the next generations are roaming, free, unsupervised, no alternative narrative for them. They are there. We don't even know what they're doing there at times. So these are some modules I've put together just to share with you. And for instance, some of the other modules, in one I have talked about the introvert teen. In one I have talked about let's say that there are, I call them age inappropriate experiences. So how does a parent anticipate and prepare himself? How does the earlier generation counter all this chaotic whirlpools that sometimes children are getting into, the young generation is getting into, and the effect of which can last for many years. And I will finally come to my visiting card. This is what I call myself. I call myself a generational peacekeeper, a generational mediator, a generational communicator. So the idea is to be very aware of the social constructs. I began with that, social constructs that we are seeing around us. And to close, there are two in particular that I want to just seed or mention here. One is, our girls. What is happening with our girls today? The ceiling that they have broken, from there, where have they gone? Where have they gone short of they have achieved escape velocity, and they are, I don't know what stratosphere they are breaking through and where they are heading. And what's happening with the boys? The gender confusion, the gender fluidity, which is redefining the roles we are playing in homes, the roles we are playing in our offices, and how we are relating to each other. That is one. And the other very compelling generational difference that you see is in how cultures are influencing each other, and how the local values, the local belief systems are not able to stand against a global onslaught. And what exactly is the global? Which is largely American, because that is the content the next generation is consuming. But In that context, what is the new Indian generation doing? What are the challenges that they are facing? Is an Indian millennial, an Indian Gen Z, the same as an American millennial or the American Gen Z? That is the question to ask. And it's also very important for all of us to understand how the new generation is coping with the demands of a global market. So these are the questions that I am going to be covering in my series on the TheSeenagerSeeks. Join me every Saturday at 5 p.m. as we continue on this most important journey of seeking. Goodbye everyone, and see you next Saturday. The topic will be up way in time so that you can be slotting for this episode. Bye bye. Thank you.